Hey guys, we are back with a new episode of The Story Of. This time I wanted to do a game that I feel didn't really have a chance to succeed because of a lot of issues, but one that I really love and I enjoy and I still like to play to this day. And that game is Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. I know what you're thinking. That game is terrible. It's the worst of all Tomb Raider games. Why are you talking about this one? Well, because it's not, in my opinion, and I think it deserves some justice, and a lot of people haven't played it because they know that it was bad and the controls were terrible, so I feel like they're missing out. So I felt like I would make a little summary story of, for those of you who haven't played it, or if you enjoyed the game, you can relive it with me right now. So some fun facts. Angel of Darkness was released in June 2003 and had been delayed many times before its actual release and was thwarted with all sorts of problems. The previous 5 games were very similar and they were all on the PlayStation 1. This was the first Tomb Raider game for PlayStation 2. It was the first Tomb Raider game to have dialogue options. It also had a strength system where you had to kick stuff down in order to get strength to reach places and open doors. And it was the first and last Tomb Raider game to let us take control of another character. Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness takes place after the events of Tomb Raider Chronicles, but she's alive. Alright, let's just dive in. A news reporter reports there have been 17 murders in what they've been calling monstrum killings. The latest victim is Werner von Croy, and a woman fitting Laura's description was last seen leaving his apartment. There are no links to the murders, and no one has survived an attack so far. Flash forward 2 days earlier, Werner von Croy is asking Laura to help him with a client he's working for named Eckhart, who happens to be a psychopath. He's tasked with finding 2 obscura paintings. Laura doesn't really give a but he gives her the address of a woman named Cavier who can help. Laura pushes the old man down because he left her in Egypt to die, and he pulls out a gun yelling, "Get out!" We hear gunshots. Werner ends up dead, and we have no idea what happened, but Laura literally has blood on her hands. Also worth noting, this game's soundtrack is fantastic. So now Laura is running through the streets and police are chasing her along with 2 cute little puppies. She goes through a window and the dogs have her famous brown backpack. So long, brown backpack. We had a great run. We have to navigate through the Parisian back streets with terrible controls as Laura. She ends up being found by police via helicopter and the chase continues through an apartment block. Police gas the building and we end up on the roof with the helicopter staring us down. We evade capture by almost falling to our death and Laura goes to see Cavier. At Cavier's, Laura explains who she is and why she's there. Cavier lets her in. She explains that Werner was fearful for his life and acting paranoid. He left a package with her just in case. His notebook, addressed to Laura. She said it must be pretty important because his notebook is very important to him. We learn that she works at the Louvre. She then becomes suspicious of Laura and calls the cops. She gives us a notebook anyways, and we rob her house because that's what she gets for being a rat. We jump out the window again, this is a common theme, and sleep in a nasty abandoned train. On the floor. Not on the seats for some reason. On the nasty floor. Von Croy's notebook speaks of a man named Bouchard, so that's our next goal, is to find this guy. We chat with the friendly neighborhood drug dealer and ask him about this Bouchard figure. He lets us know we shouldn't be asking about someone like that. He tells us the guy runs a club, Le Serpent Rouge, but has been going wrong and he's been laying low. Laura gives him some attitude and says she'll ask around, and he suggests Café Metu. Once in the city, we meet the friendly neighborhood prostitute, who has one of the best lines ever.
Move along, ma chère. You make the place look crowded.
She has no problem telling us about Bouchard's business and tells us of 2 ex-employees, the owner of Café Metu, whose name is Pierre, and Bernard, who is a grumpy old man that hangs out at the park, chain smoking, and I kind of never deal with him because he's always rude old man. Oh yeah, also she tells us Cavier was murdered by the monstrum. Great. The Parisian backstreets would be really fun to explore and have fun in, but there are load screens everywhere and that just bogs down the excitement. We go to Café Metu and approach Pierre, and he's holding out information until we give him something from Le Serpent Rouge that he left behind. For some reason, he hid it in a broken stage light. We see a weirdo sitting in the corner who shoos us away when we try to investigate him. We don't know who this guy is. On our way to the club, we see that weirdo get on his motorcycle and speed away. What a cool guy. We infiltrate the club, and although they want us to sneak around, kind of like Metal Gear, I don't even see how that's possible to not get detected. So we get the club music bumping, kill everyone, climb to the lights, snag the item, and head back to Café Metro. This dude's always on the phone. Hi, Pierre. You don't want to see my dangerous side. Best line ever. We learned the cool guy in the corner asked about Bouchard right after we left, and now we're irritated with Pierre. Pierre tells us we can go see his ex-girlfriend, Francine, and also a great remark. and she'll show us a secret route to this Bouchard. Pierre's phone is constantly ringing, so he goes to answer it again, and we head towards Francine. She tells us Bouchard is in a church basement, and we can go through the cemetery to get there. We climb through the dog-guarded cemetery and make it into the sewers. After some climbing, killer rats, we make it to Bouchard's hideout. We see this guy all f***ed up. He's got like gooey stuff, sticky stuff on him. He's making creepy noises. He looks like something out of Resident Evil or maybe Silent Hill. We find Bouchard, and he tells us basically to mind our own business about this Arnold guy in the other room, and we ask about Werner von Croy. We explain he wanted about the Louvre. Bouchard explains that von Croy wanted information about archaeological diggings inside the Louvre, and he gave him contact and gear. Laura wants the same deal. She wants the guns. She wants to figure out how to get into the Louvre, and he tells us that nothing's for free and that we got to take these passports to this Daniel guy who works at the pawn shop, and then we'll get our gear. We go to the pawn shop, and on our way in, we get bumped by this rude, scary-looking guy. There's no one at the counter, but we leave the passports anyways and go looking for Daniel. Oh, he's dead. And he's got blood all creepy written on the walls, just like Werner von Croy. We steal from the dead man and get access to his safe. We grab items stored for Werner, and an alarm goes off, and of course it's attached to a bomb. So now we gotta escape, run through a drainage pipe, and escape right as it explodes. We freaking swan dive. The cool guy is back, and he gets to watch us escape, and he has absolutely no care in the world. He's so unamused by all of this. What a cool guy. Now let's cut to the creepy, scary guy that bumped us on the way out. We get to see him talking to some of his cronies about these obscura paintings, explaining that they have 3 so far. He explains that von Croy found the 4th one in Paris, which is in the Louvre, and they'll grab that and then meet in Prague for the last painting. He speaks of awakening the sleeper and hopes it'll be more successful than last time. This thing looks terrifying. We see little glimpses of it, but we don't know what it is. Laura goes to the Louvre to figure out what von Croy wanted in the archaeological dig. In a new dope outfit, we go through the Louvre sewers looking for the secret way to get in. We locate the entrance site and blow a hole in the wall. Always in style. Very, very stealthy. The Louvre is full of guards and alarms. Oh, hey, Mona Lisa. We find our way to the Louvre offices and need to get into Cavier's office. Laura does some detective work, and we see Cavier keeps her lock code on her desktop in huge letters, and we let ourselves in. Thanks, Cavier. Inside our office, we learned of the Lux Veritatis, who were a group of people who basically wanted to stop the bad guy and his cronies. They have this thing with these paintings to perform dark arts, and apparently this other group, Lux Veritatis, stole the paintings and hid them throughout Europe. This Eckhart guy wants to get all the paintings together and summon this Nephilim, which is the angel of darkness. Game title. Which is a half-human, half-angel monstrosity thing, and he wants to bring it back to life. I don't know, something about immortality and bringing back the Nephilim race. I don't know why. He just wants to. He's crazy and evil. We grab the security pass and head to the archaeological dig. Inside the dig, we get rid of the guards and have to solve a symbol puzzle. Von Croy's notebook shows us 2 symbols, but we need to find the other 2. We find one in the office and a printer fitting, and one underground via x-ray. We guess the order, and boom, we're in. This place is called the Tomb of Ancients, and it is a bitch to get through. There are undead skeleton guards and death traps galore, but regardless, we make our way down to the Hall of Seasons, which consists of 4 different areas. Each area has a gem we need to complete a larger overall puzzle. This whole game is about puzzles because it's Tomb Raider and it's great. They represent earth, wind, fire, and water. We've got the Breath of Hades, where we have to jump across these things and not get blown up. The Sanctuary of Flame, where everything is on fire and we can be blown up at any point. You have to time it right. We got Wrath of the Beast, a super creepy statue falls apart and causes an earthquake. And then we have Neptune's Hall, which is essentially an underwater level where we have to fill water to a certain point, one of those kind of puzzles. We get all the gems, we go back to the Hall of Seasons, do another puzzle, and then end up in a room with a coffin, and we accidentally awaken a ghost monster thing who is protecting the Obscura painting. So all we have to do is avoid that thing, grab the Obscura painting, and boom, the tomb is flooded with water, so we get to just swim right back up. Right as we get our painting and we're heading back through the Louvre, it gets taken over by Eckhart's men and they gas the place. This dude is magic, and he apparently doesn't even need a mask. Look at this guy. Laura has to get to the Louvre offices, grab a gas mask that we saw previously, and kill as many guys as we need to try to escape. On our way out, we are snuck up on by the cool guy and his flying boomerang thing. He seductively disarms us and steals the painting we just worked so freaking hard for. He stares strangely and Laura tries to attack. Instead, they share a romantic look, kind of. I just spent so much time getting that painting. Why are we being sexy right now? But he leaves us alive, so that's good. Eckhart's guards try to kill us, but we see the cool guy has some magic powers and we follow him out. He tries to stab us, but then he doesn't stab us, so it's like, is he a good guy? He's a bad guy? I don't know. He's not killing us, so that's good. A guard gets smushed, The cool guy taunts us, and we see him laying in the street. Laura bends down to see if he's dead or not, and someone knocks her out. Another cool guy with glasses who we saw earlier in the game. Somebody's morphing into bodies. Bouchard wakes us up, and apparently he's put our sunglasses on. Thanks, Bouchard. I felt like being cool today. Laura needs to get back to Von Croy's apartment to check out some crap, and Bouchard offers us a ride, and we question, like, dude, why were you at the Louvre? He claims he was keeping an eye on us since we've been stirring shit up, and tries to make a move. Nah, bro. Keep your hands to yourself. He tells us of another monstrum killing in Prague. We'll get to that in a second. Bouchard takes us to Von Croy's and says he'll wait in the car for us. As we leave, we hear him talking to someone on the phone, telling them we are inside the building and to send in the cleaner. Inside his apartment, Laura sees a picture of them in Egypt. She has some flashbacks and remembers that it was Eckhart in the apartment. He threw Laura against the wall, killed Von Croy, started writing on the walls with his blood. But why did he leave her alive? We don't really know. We investigate the apartment and steal everything we can. Thanks, Von Croy. The music prompts us that a hitman has arrived. Laura chases him out of the apartment and into the rest of the building. There are bombs everywhere, and he cuts through walls to attack us. It's crazy, and it continues until basically the end of the apartment building, where he blows up everything. Still, bombs and all, we end up killing him and intercept a phone call from Bouchard. He asks if we're dead yet and explains that we gotta go to Prague. And Laura makes him shit his pants and promises she'll take care of him later. So badass. I love this Laura. She finds a business card from Prague on him, and that's where we're headed next. Boom, we're in Prague. We talk to a reporter who sounds like Mario and try to get information out of him. He says we need to pay for it, and then he kind of doesn't make us pay for it unless there's some kind of off-screen transaction going on. I don't know. He tells us about the guy that was murdered. His name was Vasily, and he was an art dealer. He says that Vasily found something that the mafia wanted, and he wouldn't let go of it, so they had him killed. He tells us of the Strahov, which is the mafia's center of operations. He gives us some dossiers. We talk shit on the dossiers, and we see Eckhart, the top mafia guy, and he tells us that they are all in the Strahov. We pay him for an access code, and we get a crowbar, and we find our way into the sewers. And who is there? Oh, it's Mr. Bouchard. So we pistol whip the and we interrogate him. Laura asks who ordered the attack on her, and he says, well, it's Eckhart. And he explains that Eckhart is the monstrum. Apparently, Bouchard was tasked with delivering the painting from the Louvre to the Strahov, and that Eckhart is protected by a group called the Cabal, and they're all crazy and way worse than the Mafia, and they've been around since World War II, and they're basically like these crazy, immortal, kind of like the Patriots in Metal Gear Solid. Nobody knows much about them, but they control everything, and they're evil. She asks why Von Croy had anything to do with Eckhart, and apparently he was hired to find those last paintings, like we already know. He learned a little bit too much, so he contacted Vasily about them, because he kind of got the vibe that these people were evil. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Vasily had 5 engravings and didn't want to hand them all over. Okay, what are the engravings? Because there's the paintings and then there are engravings. The engravings contain an encoded map of where each painting is, so you need the engravings to find the obscura paintings. Makes sense? Makes sense. The faxes were intercepted by the Cabal, and so they killed Von Croy and Vasily because the Cabal knows all. The Cabal knows all. That rhymes. But what's up with the creepy blood splatter and all of that? Well, it's to disguise the fact that he literally takes body parts from the victims because he needs it to revive the cubiculum Nephili? I don't know, one of the Nephilim, aka the Sleeper, which is the last of the Nephilim race. Eckhart wants to use the Sleeper to breed the Nephilim back from extinction. I don't understand why still. Vasily hid the last engraving and thus the last painting location from Eckhart. The last engraving holds the location called the Vault of Trophies. So now we're gonna go to Vasily's house and try to find where that engraving is. Apparently this whole Cabal, they built this Strahov in Prague because apparently the vault is somewhere underneath the building. Laura leaves Bouchard handcuffed and we go into Vasily's apartment. We solve some puzzles to show a secret office under the floor. Inside we locate a wall safe with the last obscura engraving. Laura goes to leave and we see Bouchard is not in his seat. She opens the door and boom, Bouchard falls out and he's dead. We take his keys, thank you, and run into the reporter again. He says he'll give us a code to get into the complex if we give him all of our information. So basically we're going to be his inside scoop. Apparently that's worth dying over. And so we say, okay, yeah, sure. We drive together. The reporter drops off Laura at the Strahov fortress and we use the code to get inside. We solve some more puzzles, deal with some guards, and find ourselves an event. We hear Eckhart talking to someone and oh no, it's the reporter guy. And the dude is electrocuted to death and it's terrible and there's blood splattering everywhere and then the dude is freaking lit on fire. And then Eckhart just leaves. This is all comforting. We continue through the Strahov and reach a security panel. We see a holding cell for something crazy and use our engraving to see what path we need to follow. Laura turns off the power to parts of the building for a shortcut and we see the different areas labeled loading bay, biodome, sanitarium, and proto. Wonder what those mean. We get a glimpse of the holding cell, which has now lost power. Yikes, that's not great when there's a lot of creatures down here. The guards start freaking out and a wolf monkey monster thing kills them all. Laura goes into the room with our crispy friend and heads to the bio-research facility, the biodome. I just think a biodome with polyshore. I don't know, I'm sorry. Inside, there are plants that want to eat us, among other creepy creatures. We come across the guy from the load screen. Hey, load screen guy. He's part of the cabal and they're all going to be immortal. And he's a freaking weirdo. Laura just hitting him with those one-liners. He tells us that they had the last Nephilim, the sleeper, at the Strahov. Laura says, nah, that's a myth. He doesn't like that very much. Then he sprays us with some bug spray, I guess, and then he runs away like a little B-word. We come across a room full of plant zombies being stored in tubes, very Resident Evil-ish, and oops, now they're awake. Now we have to deal with them. We have some more puzzles, and we get some plants out of the way. Laura deals with more guards and killer plants, and then we see our dorky friend again. Eckhart and Thug, I don't even know what this dude's name is, asking why all the power is off. A concerned Boaz, which is this lady who looks like her face is just literally plastered on. She's one of the cabal. She runs towards Eckhart and explains she didn't kill the proto-Nephilim. Eckhart is pissed off. What is proto-Nephilim? I don't know. We don't know. It's a creature, apparently, that she was supposed to kill and she didn't. So Eckhart is clearly pissed off and makes the nerd get one of his plants to come down. He bitch slaps Boaz and he lets her get eaten by the plant bug. And Laura's just like, whoa. Laura continues on and comes across Cool Guy again. Hey, what are you doing here? He explains he needs to turn the power back on and he's going to leave her in this little chamber that she's now stuck in because she's causing trouble. She has this little shard thing like, what are you gonna do without this? And he's like, oh, I'll be back. So now, for the first time in the Tomb Raider series, we get to take control of a different character. We are now in control of Curtis. Yeah, Cool Guy's name is Curtis. I don't think I mentioned that yet. And we go through the sanitarium. This is a level that scared the out of me back then. I mean, look at the load screen alone. Come on. We see a guard being dragged by something growling, and Curtis is just too cool. There are many enemies around. We talked to one of them. He says that the Proto is loose, the Screamer, the Black Angel. He was just a truck driver who brought the damn thing, and apparently Boaz locked them all up and fed them to it, except for him. Somehow he got away, but not really, because now he's stuck in the sanitarium. I don't know. But the cool thing about controlling Curtis is we get to use his magic abilities, and we see door codes with our minds. We end up seeing a dude with a hole in his chest and a scientist just, doing paperwork, being watched by this Proto. Shocker, it kills him. It follows us into a room for a good old-fashioned boss battle. Curtis ends up killing it, and we steal a shard off of it. Curtis returns to Laura, and she surprises him from the ceiling. She seductively disarms him, and he explains that the painting was stolen from him. That Eckhart wants to awake the sleeper, and he collects alchemy, transmuted elements from his murder victims' bodies. Okay. This Eckhart is the original Black Alchemist, and that Curtis wants to destroy the paintings. They need 3 of these shards to destroy Eckhart by stabbing him, but Eckhart has one, and then Curtis's dad apparently had 2 of the shards. But then Eckhart killed Curtis's dad to stop Curtis from getting them. It's a whole thing. But basically, Curtis wants justice for Eckhart killing his father, so Laura's like, hey, let's team up. We both hate the same guy. We want the same thing. So now Curtis will go after the 3rd shard while Laura finds the last painting and destroys it. And then there's some sexual tension. I don't know. We see Eckhart is talking to a dude and they're aware that Laura is going to go after the painting and Curtis is on the way to get the shard. So knowing that she's going to do all the dirty work to get the painting, they're going to let her, but they're not going to let her destroy it. So now we have to swim through the Strahov's aquatic research facility into the vault of trophies. She gets dressed in a wetsuit. Woo, wetsuit vibes. There are underwater death traps everywhere, but we make it to the main hall. Puzzle time. We solve it. Opens up a hole in the ceiling. Laura gets out of her wetsuit, back into her normal attire. I don't know where she was holding all that, but we find a room that has a fireplace and some paintings up, and we end up finding the last Obscura painting. So we get the painting, and then there's this hidden crawl space area under this fireplace, and we are underwater again. But once we come up from the water, we come face to face with Eckhart. Hey, he has Curtis hostage, so she throws him the painting because what else is she gonna do? She's a good person. He tells his right hand to release Boaz. Oh yeah, Boaz is now a giant monster creature thing. They sacrifice the nerd to her because he pissed off Eckhart apparently. And then Curtis helps Laura escape, giving her the shards and telling her he's got Boaz. So take the shards, go get him, I'll deal with this monstrosity. And so we fight her, and then in her second form, she's like this disgusting little creepy flying thing. And she ends up stabbing Curtis in the stomach. He uses his flying blade to slice her head off, and I'm kind of like, why didn't we just do that in the first place? And it looks like he dies. Laura continues on her way to find the 3rd shard. There's more fire, There's more lava. There's more death traps. Boom, we find Eckhart's lab and go steal the last shard. We see a giant machine that Eckhart is using to bring the sleeper to life. We come face to face with him. He's like, I'm such a big freaking deal. I'm gonna kill you. Ooh, I'm immortal. And then Laura's like, ooh, I have the shards, Beezy. Thus begins the Eckhart boss battle. He starts duplicating himself and then he gets tired, and so that's kind of your opening to go stab him in the chest. So we gotta do this 3 times. Laura drops him the 3rd time and she goes to stab him when his buddy takes a shard from her. That other Cabal dude, we don't even know his name, but he's there. And Eckhart is like, dude, kill her. And the guy stabs Eckhart instead. And he reveals himself to be a Nephilim and that he's been helping Laura the entire time. He can shapeshift and do all this crazy stuff. She then has this kind of flashback of when she was with Werner von Croy, and she remembers that Werner was trying to protect her, telling her to get out of the way. We then see Eckhart asking von Croy why he hasn't delivered the last painting, and von Croy says it's too hard, but that Laura can do it because Laura's the best and she can do anything. But Eckhart kills him. It wasn't Eckhart, it was actually this guy. Holy God, plot twist. So we now have to face this guy who floats around throwing electricity bombs. We grab the gold thing off Eckhart and use it on the sleeper because apparently it overcharges the sleeper thing. The sleeper then awakens but explodes, killing the bad guy and the sleeper itself, and Laura dodges that explosion. We return to where we last saw Curtis and we see a big blood spot in his blade laying on the ground. But the blade is still working, and she smiles and walks into the darkness. So we assume that he's alive and he has survived. And then we get that classic Tomb Raider music playing in the background. It's beautiful. The end. I don't know about you, but that's a freaking great story. The only thing that sucks about it is the controls. The controls literally killed everything. Allegedly, Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness was supposed to get its own trilogy, and that's why they left that kind of open ending with Curtis. We were going to find out what happens in the next one, but it did so badly that they never continued on with the trilogy, which is so sad to me because who knows what this could have been if they had done it properly. So it's really frustrating, but I really do love this game. It brings back a lot of good memories. I was 13 at the time and I played the crap out of this game. I know it's hard to play now, but I still think it's worth it. Puzzles are good. The enemies are good. Obviously, it gets really irritating sometimes when she's not doing what you need her to do, but once you kind of get the grasp of the bad controls, then it's not so bad, I would say. So that's the story of Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I miss this kind of Laura, and I'm hoping that she comes back a little bit in the next trilogy that we get in the Tomb Raider series. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have an idea of what I should do for the next one, leave a comment down below. Make sure to subscribe. I never ask for that, but please make sure to subscribe. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye.